Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you, Prabhu. Is the verse on the board, maybe, or not?
What is it? Ashradhaya?
Ashradhaya, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Good. Danke. Ashraddaya tam dattam,
Ashradhaya hutam dattam.
Ashraddaya tam dattam,
Ashradhaya hutam dattam.
tapastaptam kritam chayat,
Tapastaptam kritam chayat.
tapastaptam kritam chayat,
Tapastaptam kritam chayat.
asaditi uchate partha,
Asaditi uchate bhata.
asaditi uchate partha,
Asaditi uchate bhata.
nachatat pretyano iha,
Nachat prityo nohiha.
nachatat pretyano iha,
Nachat priyatyo inohiha.
ashraddaya tam dattam,
Ashradhaya hutam dattam.
tapastaptam kritam chayat,
Tapastaptam kritam chayat.
asaditi uchate partha,
Asaditi uchate bhata.
nachatat pretyano iha.
Nachat prityo nohiha.
Bitte.
Ashradhaya hutam dattam.
Ashraddaya tam dattam,
Tapastaptam kritam chayat.
tapastaptam kritam chayat,
Asaditi uchate bhata.
asaditi uchate partha,
Nachat prityo nohiha.
nachatat pretyano iha. Ashraddaya utam dattam, tapastaptam kritam chayat, asaditi uchate partha, nachatat pretyano iha. Mataji? Ashraddaya tam dattam, tapastaptam kritam chayat, asaditi uchate partha, nachatat pretyano iha. Ashraddaya tam dattam, tapastaptam kritam chayat, asaditi uchate partha, nachatat pretyano iha. Ashraddaya, without faith. Hutam, offered in sacrifice. Dattam, given. Tapaha, penance. Taptam, executed. Kritam, performed. Cha, also. Yat, that which. Asat, false. Iti, thus. Uchyate is said to be. Partha, O son of Pritha. Na, never. Cha, also. Tat, that. Pretya, after death. Nau, nor. Iha, in this life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. Purport. Anything done without the transcendental objective, whether it be sacrifice, charity, or penance, is useless. Therefore, in this verse, it is declared that such activities are abominable. Everything should be done for the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. Without such faith, and without the proper guidance, there can never be any fruit. In all the Vedic scriptures, faith in the Supreme is advised. In the pursuit of all Vedic instructions, the ultimate goal is the understanding of Krishna. No one can obtain success without following this principle. Therefore, the best course is to work from the very beginning in Krishna consciousness under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. That is the way to make everything successful. In the conditional state, people are attracted to worshipping demigods, ghosts, or yakshas like Kuvera. The mode of goodness is better than the mode of passion and ignorance, but one who takes directly to Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all three modes of material nature. Although there is a process of gradual elevation, if one, by the association of pure devotees, takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. And that is recommended in this chapter. To achieve success in this way, one must first find the proper spiritual master and receive training under his direction. Then one can achieve faith in the Supreme. When that faith matures, in course of time, it is called love of God. This love is the ultimate goal of the living entities. One should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. That is the message of this 17th chapter. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 17th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the divisions of faith. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadhati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganara Gunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Again the verse. Translation. Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme, O son of Pritha, is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. I have never seen so many people attending a Bhagavad Gita class in the evening. I don't know whether to thank them or not. So today I would like to, since it is the last verse of the chapter 17, I would like to have a very brief overview of what was the chapter 17, and then we go narrowing down to the verse and maybe unpacking a little bit the purport. So the chapter 17, which is called the Divisions of Faith, starts with a question, like many other chapters. 7-8 chapters also start with a question. And this is the second to last question of Arjuna, one of the 17 questions that he does in the conversation with Krishna here in the Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna is following up this, the 16th chapter that it was about the divine and demonic natures. And the purport basically of the demoniac natures that doesn't follow the scripture, the scripture injunctions, while the divine nature does. And so Arjuna then inquires in the first verse of the chapter 17, "O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance?" So basically Arjuna is asking, okay, if somebody is not following the scripture injunction and is not even against like the demoniac, like the asuras, then what is happening to these people? What is their faith? And then Krishna goes through speaking about what are the faith in three kinds. So the faith in goodness, in passion, and in ignorance. And then he takes different symptoms of that, symptoms of our faith, like the object of worship in the fourth verse, like what is food in the different modes of material nature, the types of sacrifices, the austerities or penances, and the charity. And it's very interesting to understand, okay, why we're talking, he wants to talk about the divisions of faith, and he talks specifically about the object of worship, the sacrifices and austerities. And Acharyas are saying that, and also Prabhupada, of course, in different purports, that specifically this topic are very much the symptoms of what one's faith is all about. So, because faith is how we connect with something that is bigger than us, like and we conduct our life based on which one is our faith. And one always has to have a faith, even like somebody who, I don't know, you go Sankirtan in the street and you try to distribute, and they're like, no, I don't believe in anything. Materialistic people also have believe in godlessness, basically. So that's their own faith. So one cannot really live without faith, and then when one has a faith, then it behaves, it deals with the world according to his own faith, which is mostly based on the modes of material nature. And so faith dictates how we perceive the world and how we live it, basically. And this is what is Krishna is going through in the divisions of faith in the chapter, detailing the different aspects and in the different gunas, and until our last verse, in which Prabhupada especially is, Krishna is saying to Arjuna that without faith in the Supreme, anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance is, so that the topics that we've just been spoken in this chapter, they are all impermanent, yeah, and they're called asat, and they're useless both in this life and the next. So in the previous verse, Krishna is also saying, he's talking about sat, and he's saying that the absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word sat. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is, in his commentary, says he always somehow brings out what is Arjuna implicitly saying. So he's somehow say, okay, I've heard about sat action, but what about asat actions? Yeah, and asat in this verse is translated in the translation as impermanent, while in the word by word, as we recall, asat is translated as false, which is also very, very interesting. About the word asat, which I feel is one of the main, most important here in the translation, in this verse, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the root reason of the offenses to the holy name is because of asat sangha. So asat sangha means association with non-devotees, basically, or speaking with about mundane topics, and yeah, one would think, okay, what is this asat sangha? So does it mean that whenever now all the Sankirtan devotees are out and they're speaking with so many non-devotees, let's say, so are they all in danger and all doing asat sangha? And of course, not really. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur then explains further on that association with non-devotees means association with taste. So when it develops on, he calls it also gusto, so have some taste. When we discuss mundane topics and we find something that gratifies us, or like some interest in those topics, then this process of migration of the qualities from the person that is having this mundane, that is speaking these mundane topics, and we find it interesting, that this migration of the qualities, materialistic qualities, also migrates to us. And this is somehow the process that it means, and this is why then we start, when we go back to devotees, or we go back and speak in Krishna Katha, then or we try to chant the holy name, then we can see the other devotees as ordinary people, or we see them from the perception of the person that he was talking these mundane topics, and so that's very, very dangerous. And I found it very interesting how this asat, so attachment for insignificant things and ultimately impermanent or mundane topics, it's very, very dangerous, and it affects us in the chanting of the holy name, which is our main process. I wanted to speak much on the purport, try to see at least the things that I could relate to mostly. And in the first paragraph, Prabhupada is saying everything should be done for the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. Without such faith and without the proper guidance, there can never be any fruit. So I was trying to reflect, what it means, any fruit, because I read much about karma yoga, and it's all about fruitive activities. So somehow there are some fruits, there are some kind of fruits. And then I was reflecting how, because if I see, it's Krishna talking, so if I see, and Prabhupada as well, so if I see from a Uttama Adhikari standpoint, this all the types of action that we perform in this world, if they ultimately, without such faith in Supreme Lord, and without the proper guidance, they can always somehow useless, because when we see it from the absolute standpoint, it's just playing around in the world that it's, one life you are in the middle planets, another life you go to the heavenly planets, and you do many different things, you endeavor for your family, or this association, this and that, but at the end it seems like it's like being in the playground, and you're not doing really much, like you're just moving around. So from the absolute standpoint, it's really Krishna seeing ourselves from above, really sees that we're not doing anything, basically, anything that is long lasting. So again, this is this reference to asat, which is this impermanency of action that are not with such unflinching faith to the Lord. And in the second paragraph, Prabhupada is mentioning to achieve success in this way, one must first find the proper spiritual master and receive training under his direction. Then one can achieve faith in the Supreme. I find it very interesting. While he really stressed out in multiple parts, also in the purport, that we need to have this faith and we need to have this guidance from the spiritual master, and it has to be proper, and receive training under his direction. And only through this process we can achieve faith in the Supreme. And I was reflecting how we can have so many different faiths, and in chapter 17, especially at the beginning, they are mentioned how we can have them in the 3 different modes. Basically, when we have faith in the mode of goodness, then we may believe in liberation or some boons that we can get from demigods. Or when faith is in the mode of passion, is related to ourselves. So there are mostly motivations behind our faith, or sometimes it could be also that, okay, for my group of people that are close to me, or from my personal belief, then there is this salvation, but for others not really, and this mood of separation. This is what is usually in the mode of passion, and faith in the mode of ignorance then is, I believe just in myself, or I believe in some conspiracy theory, or whatever, from whatever source, I just take it, whatever, and which may be much in madness and illusion. So here instead Prabhupada is talking about, if you want to achieve faith in the Supreme, which is actually transcendental faith, then one has to take on having a proper spiritual master and receive training. And this is has to be there because we need to have a source where we get the information and where we get inspiration that that doesn't have to be affected by the modes of material nature. Otherwise, we would have always find some attachment, or we will find some matching with some certain theory that matches our own combination of the gunas. So there is really no other way to really get to the highest, to the transcendental level, than associate with people, with pure devotees that are already there, and then can explain to us and transmit to us the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge. And it's very interesting how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentary that rejecting faith arises from one's impression. One who takes shelter of faith, arise from scripture, will be qualified for the highest goal. And this is what is the ordinance on the 17 chapters. So this is very interesting. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that when we reject faith, faith in the Supreme, that means that comes from one's own impressions, so from one's own samskaras. And so through our own samskaras, we get attachment to something that is asat, so false or impermanent, let's say, and so different kind of illusions based on our own combination of gunas that we developed, then it arises. So I find it very interesting how it connects it to samskaras, and this is also the process in which we are going through, like replacing these material samskaras that we are having through the chanting the holy name, through associating with devotees, and replacing them with the spiritual samskaras, which have nothing to do with something that is still connected to material kind of impressions. And then he mentioned that one has to take shelter of faith arising from scripture. So he then again stressed the importance of having some authority that is transcendental as well, being scriptures coming directly from Krishna or God himself. And there's another part of the purport that I very much liked. Prabhupada then at a certain point says, although there is a process of gradual elevation, if one by the association of pure devotees takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. And I was thinking about the bhakti, as mentioned here in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, is like an elevator. And instead of going through all different types of life or going through all the different stages in the Varnashrama Dharma, life after life, with very much danger of falling back again into sometimes even lower species of life, and it's quite a risky path, let's say. Prabhupada is really mentioning by the association of pure devotees who only have Shuddha Bhakti, like pure devotional, really going for pure devotional service. This is the best way, and also Prabhupada just right after, he mentioned that when the faith matures in course of time, it is called the love of God. This love is the ultimate goal of the living entities, and one should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. And I find it beautiful to meditate on how faith, we all have some kind of faith, some kind of shraddha, and when it develops, then it becomes love of God. When I was trying to figure out, okay, how does faith interconnect with love? And I found it very interesting. And so I went on to look more of what is the definition of faith. And also, if we see in this verse, Shraddhaya is the first word of the verse, and is means without faith. Yeah. So there's much importance, I feel, and much stress from Krishna. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, verse 62, there's a definition of Shraddha. And the definition goes like, Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. So, in other words, it means that when we have this faith, that through the activities that we do for through this devotional service, while we try also to, maybe at the beginning it's not there, but to develop this loving mood also during our service, one has the faith that it doesn't need any other kind of activity. So all others are included into the transcendental loving service to the Lord when it is performed without motivation. And it's very interesting and deep, I would say, definition of firm faith, and it's really not easy to achieve, I would say. And Ramananda Gopal Prabhu was mentioning, and this morning with the question from Sanjay Prabhu, and they were talking about upadhis. And here I would say there are really distressing the point that there cannot be. So one has the faith that through transcendental loving service to Krishna, one doesn't need to perform or being active in trying any other kind of upadhis. So I find it also a very nice connection with the verse of this morning. And the concept of faith also was thinking that is multi-leveled. So there are many ways in which we can perceive faith. Of course, they're all pointing to the same, which is the definition. And I also was thinking, I was reading this book from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's a prayer book, maybe most of you maybe know it. It's called Sharanagati, and very beautiful. And in Sharanagati, there are basically six limbs of surrendering. Sharanagati means surrender. And so the six are humility, Atmanivedana, which means surrender everything to the Lord, accepting everything that is favorable, rejecting everything that is unfavorable for the discharge of bhakti, of devotional service, and having faith that Krishna is the only protector, and having the sixth one is having having firm faith that Krishna is the only maintainer. So here also in Sharanagati, also in surrendering, there is much of this concept of having faith, and especially in having faith that Krishna is our only shelter. And I find it how much like this concept of surrender, how it connects to not needing to have any other subsidiary activities, like it is in the definition of Shraddha. So it means also having Krishna as only shelter. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj was mentioning in one of his lectures that faith means not most specifically means Shastriya Shraddha, which means faith in the Shastra, which also we saw it in the definition, in the commentary of Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, that he was saying that one who takes shelter of faith arising from scripture, then he will be qualified for the highest goal. So faith means having faith in Shastra, but also faith in the meaning of Shastra. So in what is the purport, what is the essence of, and what is the message of the Shastra. So, and this can only be given by a sadhu, by the acharyas, by the parampara, because of course all of us can read Shastra, but not necessarily we are able to get the essence and the meaning of the Shastra. So yeah, this is also another great quote by the spiritual masters in our line. And also I wanted to mention that in the 9 stages of bhakti, that starts with Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anantanivriti, and so on. The first stage is Shraddha, of course, which is faith. And Srila Prabhupada curiously translates it as favorable curiosity, and which I found it very interesting. At the beginning, when we get the Bhakti Lata Beach, so the seed of devotional service, Srila Prabhupada calls it just a favorable curiosity. I found it sweet. Yes, I wanted to conclude by mentioning that in the verse Ashraddaya, it's translated as without faith, and in the word by word it is translated as without faith, while in the translation it is translated as without faith in the Supreme. So I was reading also the other commentaries, especially Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana, and they all talking about that faith in this case means to not have sattvic faith. So they don't talk about faith in the Supreme. And I found it very amazing. And because this is one of the many, many examples of Prabhupada commentary that is always centered on giving the purport of what is the meaning of Shastra that we just said. So always mention that, leave aside all the other paths that I mentioned here, like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Yes, these are very important, but please take on Bhakti. There's always this mood of Prabhupada. Please take on Bhakti, because this gives all the auspiciousness, and there's no need to go through the different gradual elevations. And there are many examples of Prabhupada translating, especially from the first chapters. There are some parts in which clearly in the verse it talks about Karma Yoga, and Prabhupada translates it as Bhakti Yoga in the translation. And it's just amazing. At the beginning, I have to admit that I was very much thrown off by that. I was a bit skeptic, and I couldn't much understand why he was doing such a thing. I felt somehow maybe biased or so. I couldn't much understand, but I could see that if he wanted to, let's say, cover up or not show what is the true meaning, then he wouldn't have put the word by word there. So I thought, okay, this must be something more. And so in the word by word, he would always like put the right, not right, but the literal translation, of course. But then in the translation, he would have a different kind of translation, or let's say not the exact words. And and the Prabhupada commented. Then after some time, I understood that it's just bhakti centered. So it's a commentary that always want to give. And Prabhupada said also that in he wants that if a person just opens it randomly, the Bhagavad Gita, and he reads just one verse, just one purport, he wants that he get the essence of what Bhagavad Gita is all about. And so I see that it's so valuable, and I understood it quite lately, that that it really helps us also or at least really helped me in trying to understand and perceive Bhagavad Gita, because there can be, when we start to study the yoga ladder of how like we start from sense gratification, karma kanda, Satkarma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and all these ones, one could really be taken away, or not fooled, I would say, but his attention can be a bit unfocused and thinking, oh, okay, but this Krishna here seems to suggest also I don't know, the path of mystic yoga or the path of Jnana Yoga, and there are so many interesting things, and he's saying also, okay, this is a valid path, so maybe I could also go through that, and one could get kind of lost in the technicalities of that can be in Bhagavad Gita when one study it. But Prabhupada, I feel that knowing well that we, especially in the West, we're not really conversant with spiritual knowledge. And we start from, at least I start with a very low level of what is spirituality. Then we very easily get our attention diverging and not really get to the meaning of what is Bhagavad Gita, or what is Krishna wanted to say to Arjuna, what is really his advice. He presents everything, but at the end he really wants to tell him, look, I tell you everything, but because you're very, very dear to me in the 1863, 1864, please always think of me, please do worship me, and surrender everything unto me, and I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. So he really wants to give him, please take to the bhakti path, please become my devotee, and surrender everything into me. And I see Prabhupada's compassion very much in really wanted to us to not be getting lost into that, and really wants to give us the best opportunity to get back to God eventually. Cool. That's more or less what I wanted to say today. And are there any questions? Oh, please. So, faith in ignorance, so I was mentioning that faith in ignorance is when, see, the modes of ignorance is, the symptoms of it are always illusion, madness, and laziness. And when one has faith just in ourselves, or like I know what I'm doing, or there is this conspiracy theory that is really attractive to me, and so one would follow things whimsically, I feel, and and that's makes him very much divert and go into a kind of path in a very whimsical way. And this leads to even more illusion, even more madness, let's say. Then there's faith in passion. Passion, the modes of passion tends to separate, yeah. Yes, it's about being active, but there's much of division, yeah, to divide. And so I thought faith in the mode of passion would be, and we see it somehow, we could see it in some religions that they feel, okay, what I do, or like I see myself and the other devotees or other people that are around me, and we have, based on our own understanding, we have this very wonderful scriptures or wonderful base of knowledge, and I'm sure that whatever is there and the divine would reciprocate to what we have, because this is the truth, and the other ones don't have the truth that we have. And so there is always this exclusivity. So we are right and the other not, and this kind of faith is still also divisive, so separating, yeah, like we and not the others. While faith in the mode of goodness, instead, goodness is, we know the symptoms of goodness, and there's unity much in goodness, and there's some faith in surely in something divine or something that is not that has to do with just material kind of means. So faith in goodness usually is connected to wanting liberation, worship of demigods. And yeah, this is say the characteristic of the symptoms more than faith in goodness. Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah, yes, yeah, surely. Whenever we also, I think, have to think that it's difficult to find here the material nature like something that is purely in one modes of material nature. So there's always tainted, goodness is always tainted with some passion or some ignorance, and so we're always somehow associating also with the other modes. And surely, like there's all the chance, I would say, that we get also some contacts with other people or the other modes. And of course, we can get attracted also to other modes, and there's every chance, of course, to also not always pointing upwards, but also going downwards. Yeah. Is there any other question or correction or doubts? Then yeah. Please. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
I'm in a room with, I'm sleeping in a room with calculators, and they do not talk about Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So me ignoring them about their mundane topics puts me automatically in the mode of passion, because I'm thinking better than them. I'm not going to engage in what they're saying. So, but when I would go in, I think like when I would go now in the mode of goodness and be like trying to get them to talk about Krishna, then I would associate with the mode of ignorance and maybe also slip into that, not being able to control the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so before I spoke about what is asat sangha. So asat, we said that it means impermanent, it means false, yeah? And asat sangha, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that is association with non-devotees, but he says that it is association with taste. So when you're associating with people that may have some, let's say, mundane kind of worldview, let's say, and you can for example, you're doing Sankirtan, yeah, and you have to engage with such people. But as long as you don't have some taste for whatever that is been spoken, or like you are well aware of what is your standpoint, and you're not there to exchange, to have this exchange of faith, like exchange of thoughts, exchange of faith ultimately, then you're not really associating with the people. So not in a way that you can absorb their own qualities, and so also absorb the ignorance or passion. So it really depends on your attitude and how aware you are of how you are interacting with the people, I would say.
I noticed, about the Sankirtan thing. When now I do that, like I'm not getting swept up by their ideology, but then I'm successful. I distribute the book, I get a donation for it, and then I'm happy. I get the reward in the form of money, but then I get affected by that. So so now I did all this spiritual service, and as a reward I get this material evil thing, and so I'm not anymore motivated by Krishna but by money, and I feel that effect. Like I felt that effect. The more books I distributed, the stronger the effect. I was like, oh, I collected so much money today.
Yeah.
And it didn't become all about Krishna anymore. I wasn't like, oh, I spread the message of Krishna. I was like, oh, I collected so much money.
Yeah, I feel that, especially at the beginning, when we have some experience with money that comes from our previous samskaras based on the world. Yeah, we had before getting into Krishna consciousness, we had some certain ideas of money, and Lakshmi's, especially in the materialistic view, it's full of corrupting. Well, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kali, Kali can be in where there are exchanging of money. Yeah. Maharaj Parikshit allows Kali to be there. Yeah, so, but I would say that with time, then when this Lakshmi that you receive, then you engage them. You also think, okay, I can engage them very much in the service of the Lord. Then gradually, this mechanism that we have in our mind and of considering the Lakshmi as impure, or that you feel some tendency of wanting to lord it over, basically, or this feeling of wanting a reward, which it's motivation. It gets through devotional service, it gets purified. It just needs to be engaged for the Lord, and then slowly, gradually, it gets purified, I think. Surely, and also it's a gradual process. Also, my idea is that when you always try to check that you have the proper attitude and in the discharge of devotional service, then of course different impurities will come up. But this is very good because Krishna is showing us that there's work to do. But when one just doesn't identify with it and knows that by time, and it's just a matter of time when we'll be purified by the process of a devotional service, then, and that's, I think that's the way. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande.